Your boy here, and I'm here to talk about one of my favorite SpongeBob movies of all time. SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, the second SpongeBob movie. Now, I'm gonna just say it. Did I think I prefer this over the first movie? Now, don't get me wrong. Now, I know a lot of people would probably think I'm crazy or think this is stupid, right? Well, it's not really too stupid. I think honestly, Sponge Out of Water has a lot of things. I think a lot of people don't seem to understand this, but I think I like this movie more is because it had so much things better than the original first movie. There is a lot of things that I do think that the first movie did had some. Now, I really do like this movie, and I do like how the movie is, but this movie does have a few issues. This movie does do a lot of things right from the original movie, so if you want to know what's my flaws with the original, let's go watch. It's the same thing as Tiger Rules, although he can really explain what's the issues with this movie because since he's pretty much a pro at reviewing stuff, and he does know how to review good SpongeBob movies. So let's see what he said in his SpongeBob.
The town sends an assassin after SpongeBob and Patrick. This movie has a sizable amount of problems. Firstly, I hate what they did to Plankton here. They turned him into such a generic, bland villain. I liked him in the show because A, he is a large ham. Well, a tiny ham, but you know what I mean. And B, his goal was petty. He never wanted world domination, he just wanted to steal the stupid formula. And yes, in the show he identified himself as being evil, but come on, it was all about the Krabby Patty. That's part of the joke. It's petty. It's not out of character per se, but it seems a bit forced. And although he's technically the main villain, he has an incredibly small part. Did I really write that? Oh god. But seriously, this brings me to another major problem with this movie. They gave the side characters absolutely nothing to do. SpongeBob, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, Plankton are the only characters from the show that do anything. On top of that, Mr. Krabs is frozen most of the movie. Plankton, while being the big bad, isn't actually on the screen most of the time, or the most threatening villain for that matter. Pearl gets one line in a crowd scene, Sandy and Mrs. Puff get two small lines, and half of them are explanations in a montage. Squidward gets a few and then bows out of the movie till the end. Seriously, Karen gets more lines than most of these supposed main and side characters. Now this is all explained away by Plankton mind controlling them mid-movie, but there is literally no reason why somebody like Sandy or Squidward couldn't have tagged along on Sponge and Pat's journey. I guess it might ruin the whole not being a kid story arc, but here's the crazy thing. It is so easy to come up with something for them to do. I figured it out in 5 minutes. Make them form a resistance. Squidward's smart enough to put together Plankton's plan, and then he falls right into a trap. Instead, why not have him put together a resistance with Sandy for muscle and brain, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy for their powers, Mrs. Puff for her driving ability and cool car, and Gary because, I don't know, Gary. You could have a clever action sequence, and it would give them something to do. And they could fail, further proving that the adult characters need the kids to save them, thus furthering the theme. I'm not just writing a crazy fanfic here, right? This seems like a very obvious move that they could have made and chose not to. Heck, maybe it was in an original script somewhere and had to be scrapped for time. Although that's not a very good excuse because there are some sections of SpongeBob and Patrick's journey that really could be cut for time. The whole part where they run into what they think is an old lady and it turns out to be a giant monster, yeah, it was cool, I guess, but when you have them running into so many other monsters and bad guys and problems, that part could have been cut. Some of their journeying gets a little bit long. But it's not just giving these main characters nothing to do. They basically brought in new characters to fill in roles that were already kind of filled in the series. As much as I love Dennis, I feel like the movie would be a lot cooler if it featured some of the bad guys we've seen in the show. Like Flats, or the Strangler, or Bubble Bass, the Dirty Bubble, Man Ray. I mean, the show already had bad guys. Why not have them all get together or something? And they arbitrarily changed King Neptune. He's similar enough in character, but slightly different, and they changed his face and hair, and I don't understand why. So that's my biggest problem with the movie. I feel like it squanders the characters we know and love. Another problem I had with the movie? It seemed a bit immature, even for SpongeBob. There was a lot of butt jokes and underwear jokes and don't get me wrong, there's a fair bit of intelligent humor, and hey, SpongeBob delves into toilet humor every so often, but I feel like the jokes are overused in the movie and not quite as funny. Another big problem, and this is more of a film thing, the ending is a total Deus Ex Machina. Like, SpongeBob playing the guitar to save everyone, like, it comes out of nowhere. Honestly, if SpongeBob had won the guitar in like some sort of game at the Goofy Goober earlier in the film and foreshadowed it, it would make some sort of sense. But as it stands, it just comes out of nowhere. Helmets and everything, frequencies and all that. It's more or less just that it comes out of nowhere. Yes, in the show we've seen that SpongeBob has musical abilities, and heck, even in the recent SpongeBob Christmas, his music abilities saved the day. But it needed some foreshadowing. It needed something towards the beginning of the film to show this was going to be the ending that sets up the guitar, that sets up the musical ability, that sets this up, because it comes out of nowhere. And I understand that the music number is hilarious, and it's a good music number, and it's a great set piece, but it needs to have some sort of cause to lead to this effect. It doesn't matter that he pulls out of the back of his back through hammer space or whatever. I don't care about that. We're not talking about that kind of logic. We're talking about film logic where it needs to be established first for it to be brought back later in the film. But that's enough negatives. There are some things to compliment the film for. It does a good job of taking SpongeBob and bringing it to the big screen. I mean, think about it. SpongeBob goes through the hero's journey. He goes on an adventure. He proves something. It takes the show and escalates it. What is something that we rarely get to see in the TV show that happens in the movie? SpongeBob and Patrick leaving Bikini Bottom. We rarely get to see that. Yeah, there was Rock Bottom, and SpongeBob and Patrick went away, and I was a teenage Gary, but we didn't get to see that. And then later TV movies will have them going to places like Atlantis and wherever the big one is, but seriously, it's not very often that we get to see them leave Bikini Bottom, so it feels special, it feels epic, it feels like something that belongs in a movie. Just for fun and to prove how much the movie has to do with the show, I decided to keep track on a list of all these sort of little references and callbacks the movie has to the TV show. So we've got Neptune's Spatula, which obviously introduces Neptune, although we see a different Neptune here. He's quite similar. In the episode Hooky, we get the whole gift shop joke, and we learn that the size of these sea creatures is kinda tiny. In Grandma's Kisses, we get the analogy of manly facial hair representing becoming an adult. In Krusty Love, we get the pufferfish lamp, which actually we see pufferfish lamps in the gift shop in the movie. In As Seen on TV, we get the concept of a second Krusty Krab. And of course, Tea at the Tree Dome, and that SpongeBob almost dries up in this movie. In Shanghai, we get to see Patrick's negotiating skills, like in this movie, as well as also in Neptune's Spatula, and how bad they are. In Born Again Crab, SpongeBob stands up for Mr. Krabs against the Flying Dutchman, which is not dissimilar to what happens in the movie with King Neptune. And lastly, I think the episode that influenced this movie the most, and is actually kind of like a mini version of the movie if you think about it, is No Weenies Allowed. I mean, think about it. They've got the tough guy bar, and the guy that won't let SpongeBob in is actually voiced by Thomas F. Wilson, and so is the leader in the tough guy bar in this movie. They've also got the weenie bar, which, for some reason, they have Goofy Goober in the movie. I'm not entirely sure why they did that. I think Weenie Hut Jr. would have worked just as well and been a nice reference to the show, but whatever. And they also have the bowl of nails joke, which you see a tough guy in the tough guy bar in the movie eating a bowl of nails, and no, he does not have any milk. And I'm sure those aren't the only references. So yeah, I think it represented the show pretty dang well. And as much as I groan at some of the toilet humor, there is a lot of memorable quotes from the movie, and things that are just uniquely SpongeBob. Hey, you don't need a license to drive a sandwich, guys. On the technical side of things, the animation looks pretty good. It looks like your average SpongeBob episode, but really ramped up. They don't try anything crazy, but some of the things that they do with the animation, like designs for the monsters and bubbles and the bad guys at the bad guy bar, all those designs and animations are pretty good and high quality. The sound is great, although I really have to question why they pitched up SpongeBob's voice. This is something that I have a feeling we'll be talking about very soon, but it just feels unnecessary and slightly off. It's not very distracting, but it's enough that if you're a big fan of the show, you'll notice. So you want to know a fun fact? Well, it's not necessarily too fun. See, the SpongeBob movie came out a year after Finding Nemo. Yeah, I was around, and I saw Journey to go, but it's not Never have guessed that SpongeBob, of all things, could evoke to call it meh. Listen, guys, like I said, I love this movie. I could watch it 100,000 times, and I'm sure a lot of you can as well. But if I'm being honest, as both a film critic and someone expecting things out of the SpongeBob movie, it just didn't live up to all my expectations. It could have been better. And that's the difference between good and average. It could have been better. And that's the difference between good and average. Average is complacent. And I call it meh because I'm quirky like that, but that's what it is. It's average. It's the average ranking. There's nothing awful about it. It's watchable. There
Yeah,
are good
exactly.
parts, but it is not taking things one step beyond. But it's still a fantastic movie, and I still highly recommend it. If you're into SpongeBob at all, you're gonna love it. And if not, I don't know that there's enough in this movie here for you, but you'll get at least a few laughs out of it. If you don't like that rating, well, then at least we can all agree that The Last Airbender movie was really, really terrible.
Alright. Alright, Pie Guy. You made some really good points. I think you probably took all my thoughts about why I consider the movie okay. I'm gonna say that there was not too much I could say about it. I think I prefer the second movie over the first movie. Although I'd probably say I think what makes the second movie way better in comparison to this first movie is that they actually add other characters. I think the villains are way better. I think the villains are way better in this movie. The songs are honestly better than the first movie's ones. I think Now We're Men was okay. I thought Goofy Goober Rock was okay, but I feel like it was a little forced. And I think I'd rather watch this Squeeze Me song for the Goofy Goober Rock song, and I probably would rather have the Teamwork song for Now We're Men in the second movie. And I think the original Goofy Goober Rock is like the Thank Gosh It's Monday, where it's okay. I thought that Thank Gosh It's Monday is probably better though. Anyways, so me and Pie Guy are gonna. So the plot is actually definitely better than the first movie. So what we overall think of the second movie is that it's a big 100% better than the first movie. So yeah, we think the second movie is way better than the first movie. There's a lot of things that this movie this movie does better than the first movie. So yeah, overall the second movie good. But for video games, we think the first movie game was better. Although the second movie I think the second movie does do. The video game is Hero Pants. SpongeBob Hero Pants is probably my least favorite SpongeBob game. So yeah. The movie game is definitely better than Hero Pants. So yeah. For merchandise, I think the first movie had more hyping up. Yeah. So basically, we think the second movie definitely holds a candle, and we definitely think it's better than anything in the first movie. So yeah, we give this movie a good 10 out of 10. This is definitely better than watching the first movie. So I think we think the first movie is probably a 6 out of 10, very close to 7, but it just had so much flaws. So yeah. That's why I don't really think I probably think it's a good movie or not. So yeah, overall, we think this movie is definitely better. So yeah, if you think that was honestly too nice to the movie, I don't know what to tell you. I just think that's what we think about it. So yeah. All right, see you later, guys. Me and Tiger Rules are out.